Hello, everyone. The book that I'm sharing and discussing with you today is called Corolla's Sandhorse Beach, Croatoan's Memoirs, written and illustrated by Kay Kerr. This book is considered to be non-fictional, even though it's written from a horse's perspective. It recounts the real history and lived experiences of Croatoan, a wild banker colonial Spanish Mustang, who lived and roamed free on Sandhorse Beach in Corolla, North Carolina. He was eventually moved to the Gwatney Frontier Farm in Smithfield, Virginia, due to his poor health. In the story, he educates the reader about his ancestors, Sandhorse Beach, and the tireless work of the Corolla Wild Horse Fund and Gwatney Frontier Farm, who take care of and preserve this special breed that once belonged to Spanish kings. For the analysis part of the book, so there is no official published age range, but I did a little research and concluded that based on its narrative style, the length, vocabulary, and focus on regional history and wildlife conservation, the book is generally suited for children that are between 8 and 12 years old and in grades 3 through 6. For the literary elements regarding narrative perspective, the story is told in first person with Croatoan, the wild horse, speaking directly to the reader. This point of view makes the story feel more personal and emotional, I feel. For the setting, in the story, there are two main settings. The first is Corolla in the Outer Banks of North Carolina, where Croatoan lives as a wild horse. The second setting is Gwatney Frontier Farm in Smithfield, Virginia, where Croatoan was nursed back to health by the people who care about preserving wild horses, and where he lived out his remaining years with many of his Sandhorse Beach friends and family members. For a characterization, Croatoan is written with a mix of real horse behavior and human-like thoughts. These two characteristics will naturally make him easier for children to connect with. For style and language, the writing feels descriptive and gentle with lots of imagery that helps readers visualize the beach environment. The vocabulary is accessible for upper elementary students, but still rich enough to support vocabulary growth. For structure, the book is structured like a memoir, where Croatoan reflects on his past and shares pieces of history along the way. It moves between personal experiences, descriptions of the environment, and historical information. For theme, some of the themes I picked up on include belonging and identity, survival and resilience, connection to place, and respect for nature. Regarding cultural and developmental value, this book has a lot of cultural value because it introduces, children to the unique history and identity of the Outer Banks. The pronunciation of Corolla and the references to Croatoan people helps kids see that place names come from real communities and real histories. I also noticed that the story highlights how important the wild horses are to the local culture. They're not just animals, but symbols of the area's heritage. This book also supports children's development in several ways. The first-person narration helps kids practice empathy by imagining what life might be like for a wild horse. The descriptive language builds vocabulary and helps students visualize the setting, which is great for reading comprehension. The story also introduces real history and environmental ideas in a gentle way, which can spark curiosity about nature, animals, and local communities. For classroom connections, this book can be used in several subjects. Social studies. When discussing the 16th and 17th centuries, you could focus on the regional history of the Outer Banks, North Carolina coast, and explore the history of the Corolla wild horses, how and why they got there. As an extension activity, you could have the students map out the Outer Banks and discuss why the geography shaped the horses' lives. For science, when learning about animal behavior and adaptations, you could have the students compare wild horses to domestic horses. For a related discussion prompt, you could ask them what unique physical and behavioral adaptations have the Corolla horses developed in order to thrive in the salty and sandy environment of the Outer Banks. Research project. You could have students write a 2 to 3 page paper on the Corolla horses, including information on where the horses came from, how they survive, why they're protected, and what challenges they face. Then give them a choice to either create a visually creative slideshow or to go along with the paper, or to develop a 2-week fundraising campaign to raise money for the Corolla Wild Horse Fund, who maintains and cares for all those Sandhorse Beach horses. Okay, there's much more I could say, but that was a brief summary of Corolla's Sandhorse Beach, Croatoan's Memoirs, an analysis of the literary elements and cultural and developmental value, and ways you can use it in your classroom. So thanks so much. Have a great day. Until next time. Bye-bye.